welcome to Writers Blockbusters, the show where we treat the final edit of a movie like the script. I'm one of the hosts, Bob Rose. My Twitter handle and my Instagram handle are at ThunderGruntBob. And now Jimmy George is going to introduce himself.
I am Jimmy George, in case you didn't understand my name from Bob.
Jimmy George is going to
My Twitter handle is at Jimmy R. George. I haven't been on Twitter in a couple months, but if you have questions, please send them to me. Please tag me. I will find them eventually and be able to respond. So, it's worth saying.
And I am Jamie Nash. I am a screenwriter, and I wrote the book Save the Cat Writes for TV and the Save the Cat Be Cheap workbook, which you can now buy on Amazon. And my Twitter handle is at, do I have to say at? You just say Jamie_Nash.
It's up to you, Jamie. You say ad if you want to say the
whatever you want.
Earn that right.
Is at kind of passe? Is that something?
It's like www.
It's something old people say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like
well, that
20-year-olds listening to this like these jackasses.
Yeah, these old dudes saying at like a bunch of like I don't even know the terminology they would use. You know,
squid brain or something.
Right. So yeah, like if you have never listened to this show, what makes this episode really interesting is that I feel like it's almost our personal term because our show is called Writers Blockbusters, where we talk mostly about blockbusters, but our personal term for the movies that we talk about for the past 5 years has been calling them cheeseburgers. And so I feel like now that you're tuning into the menu episode, this is like this is the episode where we get to literally talk about a cheeseburger in the context of the movie.
Yes.
So, it's very.
Like, are they listening to our show? I highly doubt it, but it feels like it.
Right.
We're clearly not the only people who refer to, blockbuster arc plot stories as cheeseburgers.
No, I'm not saying we invented it. I'm just saying we say it often.
But I think what this movie does is it tells us that the other movies don't matter.
No, definitely. But wait, before we get into that,
okay,
let's go. Let's talk about a short personal blurb about how we felt about this movie from each of us. Let's start with the one and only Jamie Nash.
Yeah, so I watched it on HBO Max, or is that what the kids call it today, or did they just call it?
For right now, it's HBO Max. It might be changing its name soon, right?
The Max.
And I like I wasn't even sure if it had a true box office release, but I did just dig up the box office numbers and realized it made about 38 million domestically and 78 million internationally. So it did have I wasn't even sure until about the second. I had heard a lot of buzz about it. I remembered it from the Blacklist, which we'll talk about later on. And so I was excited to see it, and I enjoyed it. To me, it's not like my favorite movie of the year, but it's not one I'm negative on either. So I give it a solid, got a solid B or B plus for me. I enjoyed it a lot. And that's about all I have to say about it.
That's great. Short and sweet, Jimmy.
Yeah. Okay, so first off, let's tell the listeners the truth that the reason that the two of you picked this movie is because you thought I would hate it, and therefore you thought it would be a great episode while the two of you enjoyed it. And I'm
going to blame Jamie more on that. I didn't necessarily think that. But...
You guys are trying to make me frustrated. I love it. No, but twist ending. I fucking love this movie. Like, first of all, as a background, while I was doing making movies simultaneously, I spent 17 years in retail in the service industry, and before that I worked in a restaurant. So as someone who worked in a restaurant and in the service industry for 2 decades, I connect deeply with a lot of like what he's saying, and what the observations the movie is making, like thematically. So, the givers and the takers and, all that stuff. And so that I definitely wasn't expecting. And the second thing is just like from a screenwriting standpoint, It's another one of these really unconventional scripts that I feel like there's so much craft that we could talk about that we're only going to hit like half of it. So for me, it really took me by surprise, especially since these two were like, you're going to hate it. This is going to be great. And yeah, so I loved it. That short answer, I loved it. I think there's lots of interesting creative choices that we're going to talk about. And yeah, there you go.
I'm glad, Jimmy. I'm glad you liked it. I didn't specifically want you to hate it or anything. I think I might have just said like, "Oh, Jimmy's gonna hate this." But okay, so
you know what's interesting about this, and this is not that I think Jimmy would only like it for this reason, but this movie is not a cheeseburger, in my opinion.
Oh, we're gonna get there.
The irony of it,
Yes.
that not being a cheeseburger.
Yes.
So how I felt about it is I liked it the first time I watched it, and I think I'm bordering on loving it the second time. I enjoyed it more the second watch. I'll say that. But I remember my first watch because I like kind of went in cold. I didn't know much, like kind of like Jamie.
That's kind of what I did. I knew nothing.
I knew Ray.
I was waiting for them like to serve a person or something. You know what I mean?
Like that. Yeah,
they want you to feel that way.
Yeah, I was waiting for it to be that type of movie.
Yeah.
But I guess in the end, I'm trying to keep this short. I was like watching. I'm like, why the hell is this movie so funny? I was like, that's kind of was my biggest reaction to it. I was like, why am I enjoying? I was enjoying it way more than I thought I would, and I thought it was really funny. Like it's a funny movie, more so than I think some people that I've seen reviews realize. Like they're not getting the humor from it. And then I was like, all right. So of course, after the movie was over, I go to IMDb and I'm like, okay, the director. I don't know if anyone knows this, but the Sacha Baron Cohen's characters. He had 3 characters on his original show. Bruno, Borat, and Ali G. The director of the Ali G movie is the director of The Menu. And if you've ever seen the Ali G movie, it is like an absolute wacky, silly comedy. It's a movie I really enjoyed from like the aughts, right? And I was like, wait, this has the same director as the Ali G movie? All right. And then, we'll talk about, the writers and stuff, but it's crafted by a bunch of people mainly with their roots in comedy. And that's why I was like, okay, now I get where I was standing on it. I didn't understand. Like, it's really funny, and this is the reason why. I think that actually made me enjoy it a little more, too, because I was like, all right, it's the voice of comedians. All right, now I get where I'm coming from with it and everything. So I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the movie. Jamie, to finish out what I just started, who wrote this shit?
Yes. I've lost it now because I looked at the box office.
I mean, I've got it here if you want me to say the.
Yeah, you could say their names.
And we're gonna have an unconventional episode here.
Yeah, it's unconventional.
Bob's gonna do it.
It's Seth Reese and Wilt Tracy.
Okay, I think it's pronounced Rice. No, I'm just
Seth
kidding.
Rice. It might be.
I'm making fun of it.
I'm trying to mimic. I'm trying to mimic Jamie by saying yes.
See, not so easy, is it, Bob?
Seth Reese. Yeah, he's known for stuff. He was a writer on Comedy Bang Bang. If you guys know what Comedy Bang Bang is, it's basically a sketch show. He's written for The Onion.
John Oliver. I saw both
John
of
Oliver,
them. Both of these writers, Wilt Tracy. Yeah,
assuming that's how they know each other was John Oliver.
Yeah,
right.
Now,
so
the only like feature credit or fictional show in this case a TV show, one of them had a Succession. I think was on their resume.
Wilt Tracy wrote for Succession. Yeah,
the director of this movie directs multiple episodes of Succession. So that's the director of The Menu. So they're all like tied together.
Yeah, they've got their roots in Upright Citizens Brigade, The Onion, and Comedy Bang Bang. That's like deep underground comedy stuff too. So that's
So it really informs the experience we got.
Yeah, it really does. And the presentation doesn't feel like that at all, right?
No,
it doesn't.
Yeah.
If you read interviews with them, they kind of talk about like, yeah, well, I'd write one scene and try to make him laugh, and then if I think that's funny, so they're writing it. They're not like, well, we wanted to do something serious or anything like that. They're definitely coming at it from a comedic kind of, vibe.
I mean, I would say that the menu listings of the ingredients is where the movie gives away that it's supposed to be hilarious. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's where the giveaway is, and that kind of sets the tone for the rest of it, for me at least.
Yeah, I felt like the jokes were always there, functioning very much like a horror
Totally.
comedy to relieve the tension, right? So yeah.
But you guys wanted to talk about the Blacklist. That's something we really haven't covered here, is it? I don't think we've ever really dove in.
No, we haven't. Yeah.
So, Jamie, what's the Blacklist?
Yeah, I'm about to sneeze, but I was trying to force it out, and now I didn't have to.
It's all scripts about nose deformities.
I mentally willed myself not to sneeze.
You can sneeze, go for it.
No, it's too late.
I'm not going to edit it out.
I've already destroyed it in my.
Jamie's using one of the types of tension right now.
Right.
That's right. So, that's right. The sneeze is going to happen one of these seconds, but I'm not sure when.
The sneeze under the table.
Like Alfred Hitchcock once said, we could talk about baseball for 10 minutes and then the sneeze could happen. Or you could announce the sneeze first and then talk about baseball. That is tension or suspense. So anyway, without that. So this particular project, it hit the Blacklist in 2019. The Blacklist is, there's two basic things that, when I say Blacklist, that might, if you're a screenwriter, might trigger in your head immediately. And we're going to talk a little bit about both of them today. So number one is, originally there was this list by a guy named Franklin Leonard, and he basically started this just kind of grassroots survey of agents and producers in Hollywood to say, what's the best unproduced script that you read this year for feature screenplays. And he would make a list every year. It comes out in December, kind of around Christmas time. And it's, it has all these scripts. And in 2019, the menu made this list. And I've been reading it. I can't remember how long it goes back. I should have looked it up, but it's not super old. Maybe.
I think it's like 2011 or 12. Yeah. There's been a string of, in the early goings when this started, movies would get made off of that list. Like being on the Blacklist would just launch your career.
It's a little weird in that when it first started, like if you go back to 2011, there was probably, and I'm just going to make this up, like don't fact check me on this, but things like The Social Network would be on there, and it was already in production,
right?
So it was, it didn't get made, but David Fincher's already writing his storyboards for it, and they already have a cast. So there were a lot of scripts like that, and those things still somewhat end up on there, but I think it's less so now because I think the list has now been politicized in a way like that managers try to break new writers. Like it's more important for the writers of the menu who don't have any feature credits to get on this list than Aaron Sorkin. He's like, what is it? I don't even know what that is.
He doesn't need it, right? Yeah.
He doesn't need it. So now managers and agents who kind of care about breaking their new writers and putting them up a level, they try to get them on this list. They campaign almost. And when I say campaign, it's really just they send the script to all the right people, and then they give them a couple phone calls to remind them, hey, when the Blacklist comes, don't forget that script you read. It's that kind of thing. And you see a lot of managers and stuff. It's almost their strategy is to get clients on this list, and they actually, you'll see the numbers at the end of the year. It'll be like, this manager got 5 scripts on the Blacklist, and this one gets 6. And there's like 2 or 3 or 4 of them that are always ranked kind of toward the top, and 2 or 3 or 4 agencies or management firms. I usually think of managers as doing this, that really focus on this as a strategy. And then there are other managers that could care less or just don't want to take the time or whatever. So it is a little bit of a popularity contest. It is a little bit rigged, we'll put quote unquote. And you could easily see where these two writers in 2019, they would have had they were connected, right? They were people
Yeah,
that
they were
already
working for
working
John
together.
Oliver. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. So for them, it totally makes sense that their managers would go to bat for them, because they were like, these are talented people. They have a good sense of humor. They're good in a room. Let's get them on the blacklist. It'll change them from being, late night writers or whatever, The Onion, to being, hot feature writers with a big voice and like new talents. So for people like them, they're like the perfect candidates to end up on like the 2019 blacklist. That's my, that's
But
my,
go ahead, Bob.
I was gonna say, is there anything that the blacklist favors? Like, does it favor genre
that's
stuff?
a great
High concept stuff?
That's a great question. So I'll occasionally write a script that I'm like, well, I'm kind of doing this as much for the blacklist as I am to get made, because it's not going to get made. For many years, I tell you what it was biopics. If like the number one thing that would rise to the top of the list, if you looked at the rankings, was something like, and these are real things. These are like, it was the story of Michael Jackson as seen through the eyes of Bubbles the chimp, his pet chimp, or something like that. Or and they would be these wild swings that you're like, they're never going to make that into a movie. I think one year there was the making of Star Wars as seen through the eyes of Chewbacca or something like that. There were things like that. And that's why I say The Social Network was on there. Lots of like the making of, I read all the horror ones. So there was like the making of Maximum Overdrive when Stephen King was coked up, and they're kind of fictionalized biopics that take these big swings that a lot of times don't get made because you don't have the rights or whatever. There's some crazy things, and they're actually the type that I've written in the past that I'm like maybe this will be a black. Now mine never made it to the blacklist, but they're usually kind of almost like stunt scripts, or what they call, there's a term for it, fuck it scripts, like the ones who just like,
yeah,
I don't care about the marketing rules.
Script.
Yeah. And, the menu could even be like one of those to an extent for these guys. Like these guys are like, screw it. They want me to write like some, John Wick, female John Wick movie or something like that. I think I saw somebody say, and we don't want to do that. We want to write some crazy thing about this dark comedy about, high-end dining, and it might not be the most marketable thing, but they do it anyway. But yeah, biopics are actually, that's the thing that hits. If there was one genre that hits more than the others, it tends to be biopics.
Okay.
The second, I want to just see if would you talk about the second version of the blacklist, and then I'll bounce off of you with some of my own client experience, because you've submitted through that second, even though you have management, you've also submitted through that second version, right?
I have. So we just thought this would be a good time to talk about the second version of the blacklist. So Franklin Leonard, basically, his list got so popular, he kind of found a way to monetize it in a way, or use the brand to offer services up to fledgling screenwriters to kind of be seen where they couldn't be seen. And what it is, the blacklist is, there's a website called the blacklist, and its only affiliation is really the label and the owner. But it's a website where people submit scripts, and those scripts can be hosted or at least listed on the site. And they submit scripts for money. You have to pay for coverage and listings. So you pay, I don't know what it is, but it's like $100 a pop to get coverage. And their professional readers will read and grade your script, essentially. That's what coverage is. Coverage is a little book report with kind of like a grade listing. Like, I give it this for structure, I give it this for character, I give it this for dialogue, and they give a little grade for each thing, and then they give you an overall grade. And the blacklist is one of these things. I'm not a day-to-day follower of the blacklist. Like some newbie screenwriters, they play it like it's a legitimate system. Like if they can score a 9 from 2 or 3 rankings, they will get on some list and the doors will open for them and they will win the day. And it's almost like a game they're playing where you can resubmit like every time and be like, maybe I'll get a 9 this time.
Like and stuff.
Yes, yes. So you keep resubmitting your draft and playing the game and trying to get a 9. And this is, I'm sure Jimmy has a lot to say about this. It's a little bit of fool's gold in some ways. No, I'm sure if you get a 9, there are definitely people that win the day and stuff like that. But it can be very frustrating in that I've had scripts submitted to it, like especially when I co-write. A lot of the people I co-write with, they'll submit because it's a good option. If you don't have any other options, it's a good option.
Exactly. Well said. Well said. That's
So
the value.
Is it
that's the
free
value
to submit?
It's not
No,
free.
It's not
That's,
free. Okay.
That's the bad side of it, is it's
Okay.
not free. But the good side of it is at least it's something. It's not a contest. It's something. And you do get feedback. It's not as good as Jimmy's feedback. It's like one little book report that but here's what my experience has been. It's so, and this is true of all screenwriting.
And this is you as a professional who does this for a living, who has agent and manager and
right.
Yes.
So generally I would try to stay away from this just because I know how subjective it is. And I have other people I could submit to. But in a couple of cases, I've had things submitted and those things got decent scores. Like maybe they got an 8 or 9 on the score. And if they do get an 8, the blacklist, it triggers some things like the blacklist tweets out your script slog line. The blacklist sends out an email for, that you're in the top 10, and they do some things. And not too long ago, and I don't remember the exact numbers, I had a script that was submitted and it got like 2 9s or something like that. And then, or maybe an 8 and a 9, or maybe 2 8s. I don't remember what it was, but it triggered these things. And then the blacklist also gives you like free reviews if you get that, because they're like, oh, this might be one of our better scripts. I'm going to send it out. And in these cases, and I'm not remembering the exact that happened. We got these free things. And then the next person comes in and gives you like a 4 or something. Like, the
with
first
the
two
same
are like,
script. With the same script.
no different. And the next one's 4, and it's completely like, this is the worst script I've ever read, or whatever. So the first two say things like, this needs no changes. It's ready to be made. And then the next one comes in and it's like, you get a 4, and this thing is barely professional. It's an embarrassment or something. They didn't quite say it in those terms, but that's kind of the note behind the note. So all I'm saying is these things are fine, especially I encourage them if you have the money. I don't think anybody that doesn't have the money should feel guilty about not doing it, because I don't think they're that worth it. But if you have money to blow, if you have a couple $100 to blow in your script, go for it. But the only thing I'd say is don't treat them, don't feel like there's anything but subjectivity to them. I think I've had people come to me that I've consulted, and Jimmy, I'm sure you have the same. They're so frustrated when they get like an 8 and then a 4, and they come to me and they're like, I don't know what to do. One gave me a 4, and I just kind of shrug, and I'm like, yeah, that is what happens. And
you are at the mercy of the reader, the mystery reader.
Yes.
Who is,
so even on the blacklist, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, right?
Well, so I'll share a little, and then we can move on. I really appreciate that you sharing all that, Jamie, because I feel like we're on episode 91. This is the mainstay of screenwriting that we're talking about here. Everybody who's trying to break in knows about the blacklist.
And one other thing I should say, Coverfly is a little like this now as well. They kind of have a score and it tracks through. Theirs is a little different. Coverfly has a score that tracks through contests as well as coverage, but it's a little bit similar. It has some similar stuff.
So I'm going to try to minimize how much, because this is a topic I could talk about for like an hour passionately in many ways. So first of all, let me first say up front, I am a part of the pay to play system. I am a script consultant. People pay me to help them with their script. So I recognize that me having any issues with the pay to play aspect of this is contradicting. But that being said, there's like a couple things that are very common that I see when it comes to blacklist expectations and responses from clients who are like trying to break in, right? And just they're looking for validation, you know, and they're looking for an edge, right? Anything, especially if they don't have an agent. And I have heard stories of clients I've worked with who have gotten that coveted 9s across the board, and being able to speak to that and put that in their pitch, you know, when they're sending out queries, has gotten them through the pile, right, to the top of the pile. So there is value in gaining those scores on a case by case basis. But that being said, what I see more often is two things, which is so quite often people who I've worked with will either, when they're working with me for the first time with the script, they'll be like, here's the script, I want to do the notes. And they'll be like, here's what the blacklist said about it, right? So they're like, they're specifically asking me to speak to the scores and why they got the scores, you know? And then the second thing that happens, which is worse, is someone will get an 8 or a 9 across the board, and it's not a script that I think would excite a reader. Like it's just not good. And so what that does is it gives the writer a false sense of completion of their craft level. So they're coming out of the gate, putting all their money into all the contests now and putting all their effort into like sending out queries with this script that is not ready. And so that's the danger of all these coverage services. But then the other thing is that a lot of people, they basically put all their hopes onto this, because what they assume is there's those two distinctions that Jamie stated: the blacklist, that's the end of the year industry, best of the industry that isn't made, versus the pay to play just coverage system, getting the scores and the one page of notes. People misunderstand and think that if they get 9s, they are going to get on the list at the end of the year. So what you have is you have all these people who are putting, like one script after another in there, and they might get 9s, and it still doesn't get them on the list. And so there's like a lot of confusion in that. Like, people are assuming that if they score high, they're going to get on the list, which that's not how it works. And so it's like really important to understand that. But yeah, I have a lot of people, Jamie, who experience exactly what you're saying, which is they'll send me a script they want me to do notes on, and they'll be like, here's my 3 blacklists that like I paid for. One is the 5s all across the board. One gives them 1s all across the board, 1 out of 10. And then the other gives them 8s. And they're like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm like, yeah, it's not about the script. It's about the reader, right?
Right.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry.
And that's the thing too, is the readers, and not to disparage the readers, they're doing what they have to do.
They're doing what they have to do.
But right? It costs $100 to get coverage. If you pay somebody like Jimmy, if you pay me, it's going to be a lot more than that, and not a ton more. I mean, not 10 times.
God, this is sounding like a sales pitch, even though we weren't intending it to be.
Well, and I'm just saying the reason it costs more is because it takes a long time to sit down and be considerate of a script, and they force them so they're getting paid like $100, and the reader probably gets 40 or 50 of that to read the entire script, think about it, write a synopsis, write notes, and give scores. I mean, it's just so, and obviously the only way,
and they're doing multiples in a day.
Right, multiples in a day. So if you're doing that for $40, you can't, I'm not saying
it's not going to be detailed.
And this goes for really like any contests that are going to give you a score and a 1-page coverage
and people that are really, like development execs and things like that also get paid to do this for a living. They're making more than $40 a script. I mean, in general, or they have a bigger, because they could be producers and stuff of these scripts. So the people that are super talented with this are probably, not to say, this is kind of an entry level job. These people might be super talented, but they also might not be. They might be might have really bad tastes. I remember one time, this is many years ago, I submitted a TV pilot, and the TV pilot was something to do with ghosts, right? It was a horror thing. It was kind of poltergeisty or something. And literally, this was the note I got back. The note I got back was, ghosts aren't scary. I cannot think that ghosts would ever be scary. This will not work because it has ghosts. And that was like the big note. And it was like 4. You get a 4. And I was just like, okay.
It's like all objective language too. Like ghosts are not very
I wish I still had it. That one I'm not even really exaggerating. Like it sounds like that's the one I'm exaggerating. That's basically what the and it's from that moment I was like, wow, they're not even trying to be like, your readers. It's just like my opinion is right. And I have a really bad opinion,
We
you
can
might write horror movies.
There's literally like super beloved classic films based entirely on ghosts.
It was most. And honestly, I should have asked for a refund or something, or but
and
I was
they
just
are
like,
really good about that. To their credit, they're
They
very
are.
good about when a customer is dissatisfied and feels like they've gotten a reader who just was having a bad day or didn't connect with the material or wasn't paying attention and got all the details wrong. They absolutely refund people. To their credit.
I'm sure they would have refunded me. But I use that more to illustrate the point that if it wasn't that, it might just be they have really bad taste in screenwriting, in general, in writing, or they might be totally missing the point somewhere else because they're not. I don't know how much they're vetted, but it doesn't seem like they're jumping through a lot of hoops to get this job.
Basically, it could just be people off the street looking for a job reading these scripts almost.
Yeah. I don't know what their vetting system is, so I don't really want to speak to it, but it could be. And that's why, and it's not even that I want to say this is a bad model or anything, because I actually encourage people that want to try it. If you have $100 to waste, go for it. Because what else are you going to do? Sit around with your thing on your hard drive? So I actually, this doesn't sound like an ad for it, but I actually encourage it if you have the money. Like, why not? Why the hell
But
not?
I would just say manage expectations, right? Like
that's what I'm trying to say.
This is the thing. Yeah. If you get a 9, it could help you, but that doesn't mean it will. If you get 9s, if you get a 1, that doesn't mean your script is bad, or that you should give up, or that you should, be discouraged.
Don't take anything but real results for real results. So unless you get a producer and agent, that's the real result, and you should 100% trust that. But if somebody says your script stinks, it might or it might not. It's hard to say. And if somebody says your script's great and it needs no changes, it probably still needs changes, and it's not that great. Now, if you get an agent or a producer, trust that and run with that. Like that's
somebody will actually make the movie.
That's the real 9 or 10 is getting.
I love that, Jamie.
I was going to say, like, you guys keep saying you get 9s. Has anyone ever gotten a 10?
Sure, people have gotten 10s.
Probably.
Okay. No,
probably.
Who wants to be I'm sure there's a sign on the wall above all the readers, like, no one is allowed to give a 10.
Yeah.
Because it means too much.
It's in big letters staring them down. No 10s.
No, I know this was we kind of diverged here to something that's not about the menu, but the key thing with the menu
is I'm really glad we talked about it.
But the menu's from this system.
Well,
yes.
The menu's not
the first one.
system.
The first one. Yeah, okay.
It's from the other version of the
But
system.
the main thing I wanted to talk about is I really believe that a lot of newbie screenwriters think that the menu got to that list from doing what they did.
From the second one.
From the second one, which is not how it works.
Okay.
No.
So that's the distinction, and that's what needs to be made clear. And I feel like there's this confusion, that people don't understand that, like, that's not how you get to the list at the end of the year.
And one other huge takeaway from the blacklist as a list, not the website. So the one that the menu made, every year it comes out, and every year, if you look hard enough, you can find all the scripts on it. So you could have read the menu in 2019 and kind of seen what a sellable script looks like.
It's a really good way to get your fingers on the pulse of, like, the style and the form and the voices that are catching people's attention.
Right. Because if you read, like, the Fableman script now, it's a different version of the script. It's the one that conforms usually to the edit and stuff like that. But if you read those blacklist scripts, very often are ones that are trying to sell. So they're what you're trying to do. And my advice, if you're going to read scripts, those are the ones you want to read, not the ones that they publish in a book or something like that.
Yeah, the end of the year list. Yep.
Yeah.
I've already
you
read a
want to get
couple
that good
from this
stuff.
year's list. Yeah, and they were really good.
So if you are a screenwriter, you should chase this list and read the ones you're interested in and see what kind of stuff is making noise and catching attention.
Bob,
Thanks
thanks for letting us go for 20 minutes about that. Why
you don't
not?
need to say thanks. I'm interested in the. I knew about the blacklist, but I like hearing the details from you guys, and also I like the fact that you have to remind people that it doesn't mean your movie's going to get made if you get a good score.
Yeah,
I think that's really important.
there is value in it though.
There's value though
In those nines, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So before we got into the second blacklist, we were talking about the genres that work in the first blacklist, and you said it was biopics. Now, that has nothing to do with the menu, obviously, but it starts the conversation on, which is, I think, a conversation I've seen had on the internet. What genre is this movie? Let's talk about that. Genre expectations. And
Woo!
we can only talk about the expectations once we know what we're talking about with genre.
Yeah,
right?
Jamie, I want to hear your take on this because I haven't heard you say a word about it actually. So, in our chats about what genre is this movie and how it plays with genre. So, I want to hear you first.
You know what one it reminds me? When I saw this question on our list here, I was thinking, what movies does it remind me of a little bit, like at least tonally or vibe? And the one movie that pops into my head is Parasite. And Parasite was kind of like this in some ways. It was kind of funny. It was kind of dark. It was kind of, it avoided some, characterization. But I mean, I would say dark. We're talking blockbuster genres, right? Not
Save the Cat ones.
We're talking video store genre.
We're talking about the audience coming in.
I mean, I do think it's a horror thing, a dark thriller, something like that. A dark comedy in some ways. I don't know. It could be any of those. I would pick from.
How about you, Bob?
Well, is your hesitance to say horror comedy because it's just not that gory, or it doesn't have that element to it, like
now, much like you, Bob. I came in a little cold when I watched it, and I didn't get a laugh out loud. Like, it's satiric in some ways, but I didn't get and maybe I'm just missing it, but I didn't really find it like it's gold to be like really making me laugh as much as that's clever, kind of satiric kind of thought. Like, I didn't do too many belly laughs at this one, even though maybe that was intended and I missed it.
I'd go, the obvious one to go to is horror comedy, but I'm also open to just straight up dark comedy.
As the video store manager, where do you put this?
Right. Well, I mean, I think at the video store, it's a little bit, you have to be really broad. This would probably go in horror.
Yeah.
Like, it just would, because you don't want the customers to like assume they're getting some like drama, and
right?
They get this thing,
Genre really,
I think that's an important thing that you said there.
It is. That's how you classify stuff.
Genre really is about the audience, right?
Right.
It's who is the audience for this?
Yeah. You don't want people to walk in and get mad when they walk out. So
yeah, exactly. And I feel like when we did Paradise, it was so long ago. Parasite. I don't remember our genre conversation in that, but I feel like that was one where the genre was shifting. It was shifting, and it was carrying on the genres that it had established, and then turning into something else while maintaining those other genres. I feel like your comparison, Jamie, to Parasite is really perfect, because Parasite is a eat the rich satire, right? Like it's
classism.
It's playing with exactly the same like paints and expectations and things that they're pointing fun of and mocking about the rich. And
it actually, do you watch White Lotus? There's something about the vibe that reminds me a little bit of White Lotus too. White Lotus isn't as dark as this. It never goes to like this kind of level of blood and gore.
No one gets set on fire.
Yeah, but there's some kind of vibe with it where it's funny, where you kind of have a smirk on your face watching it, but it's not like jokey funny or anything like that. Yeah.
This movie doesn't have jokes except maybe the line about student loans, like that. You know what I mean? Like there's that, but the movie doesn't.
I mean, it definitely
jokey.
makes you laugh constantly.
I think it's funny. It's
like
also,
I laughed my ass off at this movie, just like Barbarian.
I think any movie with John Leguizamo or whatever
Right.
is a comedy in some ways. There's something
funny.
about him that
No,
My
but
own-
I
my
guess.
criticism-
Go ahead. Okay.
I was gonna say my only criticism of the movie, honestly, is he's not playing himself, and that the movie that Ray Fiennes watches that makes them choose him is not
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers. Like I just wish,
right.
I just wish that was what happened in the movie, and that's it. Go ahead, Jamie.
Oh
sorry.
man, no, but
Jamie.
I guess I was gonna bring up, like, I think it's one of two options, right? Is it a shifting genres movie, or is it, because Jamie, what it made me think of, and that's why I'm gonna go into like that document I sent you guys. When I went into the second viewing, I was kind of looking through it to try to really pay attention to the genre delivery, right?
Mhm.
Is it shifting genres like we just talked to, and then when the guy blows his brains out, it becomes a full-on monster in the house horror movie? Because I do think this fits. We didn't put it on talking points, and we're not going to really go into it, but I do think this is a trap with a monster, with a sin. Like, I feel like it fits all the monster in the house, requirements and the things that we usually get out of a monster in the house experience, especially once they all know they're going to die, which is 42 minutes in.
Is it 42 minutes when the suicide happens?
Yeah, and I
Okay.
when we get into the structure, we can talk about lock-in and stuff and debate
Right.
that, because I think there's some interesting things to go on. But or is it B? Is it actually a slow burn horror? Because you talk about, Jamie, it reminded me of how you talk about a lot of horror movies sort of bury the monster lead, in that like we're sort of experiencing for like the first half of the movie not much actual visible. We're not really getting terror or gross out, but we're getting dread in all sorts of forms until that midpoint when bam, the monster comes out, and then it's a full-on, like, lots more terror, lots more gross out, and I feel like this experience is just like that, where it's like just filled with little drippings of dread consistently, and then once that the brains are blown out, we're getting terror, jump scare, gross out, terror, jump scare, gross out, dread. We're getting a horror movie through and through. So
I mean, not too different, excuse me, than like Barbarian, I guess. And
that's why, exactly.
Yeah, a little bit, right?
But you know what else? You know what other movies kind of come to mind? Like Barbarian, it feels like it's going to be a dark thriller, or I mean, a horror movie almost from the beginning. Like it's a different horror movie than the one we expected or something. But I guess it could be a psychological thriller or something like that. Once the monster shows up, it's a very different horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like it even shifts its horror genres in some ways. Mm-hmm. But this one, when it started, I was like, well, maybe it's going to be more like, what's the Jason Bateman, The Gift? Did you ever see The Gift or something like that?
Yeah.
Maybe in the beginning, I thought maybe it was more a movie like that, like it's horror, thriller, something dark, and it's going to be intriguing. But then it did take the shift into, for better or worse, and I think better, the B movie level, like, now we're killing ourselves, and we're going to turn you all into s'mores in the end, which was a little midsummery to me.
Very much.
Yeah.
God, I wish I had looked it up. Jill watched it with me because I was like, "What is this thing?" Like, it felt so much like Midsommar, like in so many ways, and I was like, and then I could point to other movies that are playing with those same sort of eat the rich, all this stuff. And Jill was like, I was like, there's got to be a fable somewhere that all of these like writers are being like responding to and inspired by, that's been in our human culture forever that I just don't know about. And she's like, yeah, it's Sodom and Gomorrah, which I don't know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah well, but when she was done, when she went through it, I was like, oh my God, like you just put all the beats of this and Midsommar and stuff and Sodom and Gomorrah. I was like, okay, cool. But the other thing it reminded me of, because we're talking about genre, is it felt very much like Jurassic Park. Like, I almost think there's an argument from our show's standpoint and the techniques we talk about. I almost think there's an argument to be made that this is Jurassic Park with a new skin. Like, this is like, what if
they go to an island?
what if the people who are paying money, super expensive tickets, instead of going for the experience of seeing dinosaurs in a cage, they're going to, the experience they're going for is a bunch of exotic menu items, that they could only get by coming to this island, this like Jurassic Park with foodie resort paint is the menu.
It sounds like a sequel to Jurassic Park will have dinosaurs on the menu. Like, it'll be a restaurant where you eat like T-Rex.
Dinosaur burger.
They take a boat to get there. They're stranded.
Now I just want to put the Jurassic Park music over the opening of the menu. Yeah, right.
And then it isn't until the midpoint that the dinosaurs come out and shit goes and shit hits the fan, and all the rides that all the dinosaurs that the audience was expecting to see and the characters in the movie were there to be excited about are killing them. So like the guy committing suicide is like almost like the T-Rex attack sort of. Yes, exactly.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it does track.
It happens almost at the exact same time in the movie.
It tracks.
So anyway, I don't know. For me, like, so second time going through, and I sent you guys this list. I'm not going to read it for the listeners. I did a massive book report where I went through every moment until I believe it becomes a full-on horror movie, which is 42 minutes when the guy blows his brains out. And there's not 1 minute starting from when Margot is not on the guest list, and there's tension from Elsa. There's dread, like Elsa kind of looks a little dangerous, right? Mm-hmm. That like she gives a hint of sinisterness, and there's dread there. That is 6 minutes in. From 6 minutes to when Jeremy blows his brains out at 42 minutes, there isn't more than 1 minute that goes by where there isn't either dread. There's terror, jump scare. Like every time the chef claps, it's a jump scare. So it's terror. And it's in the midst of all this dread. So it lands like a little bit of a jump scare. The glass on the floor, like when Tyler is reaching to get Margot's food and the glass falls on the floor, it functions like a jump scare, right? So I think looking back,
you're also scared of how they're going to react to glass breaking. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like
Chef, what's he gonna do?
They've ruined the evening. Yeah.
And in the first half, they're doing a great job. If you watch it for studying to see how it's using horror, these dread, terror, gross out that we talk about in our horror episodes, every single time it plants dread, since it's burying, it doesn't want the monsters to come out yet, right?
Well,
but go ahead.
I keep going. Finish your thought.
Every single time we are made to feel like Chef is going to lose his shit, and this is the moment where somebody's going to get killed. They land a joke, right? There's a joke every single time. We're like, oh my God, I think this is a horror movie, and I think that shit's about to go bad. A joke happens, and the chef's like, it's okay, Tyler, it's perfectly all right. Like, I don't worry, you can interrupt me.
Horror and comedy have a lot in common.
Yeah. But anyway, Go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah. So just to jump down, because I think this relates to it, the tension, the types of tension, and what happens often, especially in the setup of a movie or the first act, before there's this dramatic tension. So tension is kind of the fuel for what keeps us going. It's kind of an instability that we need to be stable again. Like we're unstable, and
that's a good way to put it.
Search for. I think I stole it from Lessons from a Screenplay. They have a really good thing on Inglourious Bastards. But so. There's this kind of instability. I describe it in my book as an itch that needs to be scratched, but it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, you plant something, and it just has somebody unsettled. Once the story kicks in, like in this story, you could, if you say the lock-in, which we'll talk about in a second, is something like, will they survive or won't they? That doesn't really kick in to like how many minutes in?
42 minutes.
42.
Yeah.
That's
But
a
I have a debate about an earlier one, but we'll just wait.
So that's a long time. If you get to will they survive, won't they? So in order to fill that spot and keep people interested and engaged, you have to give them other types of tension. And we've listed like five types of, is it six types of tension? There's six. Mystery. Mystery is a very common one. Like, what's going on here? Is what's the bigger picture? Why are these things happening and things like that? And we'll talk about that red flag thing in a second too. Cinematic is another kind. Sometimes it's just in the way it's shot. Like, imagine if
all the menu item, all the courses are beautiful to behold. They're cinematic, yeah.
Right.
And there's a lot of execution here that makes it dread. I mean, it's not just the page.
Like, you could have a story and not show something with the camera, and that would give you tons of tension, right? It's like if they were constantly like talking to somebody and you didn't show the person or something. There's all kinds of ways to do.
It's also like just the aesthetics of like that giant door slamming or closing shut and stuff. Like that's not that's perfect probably, but that's perfect. A visual that gives you absolute dread.
Right.
Through Margot's eyes.
And to your point, she's the only one who notices that it's guarded and that Elsa locks it, which is definitely dread and definitely intentionally meant to make us feel like she's a little concerned, right?
Our dread is through her pretty much. The other characters are kind of oblivious. Yeah.
Right. And then no worries. That's great. That's great examples. And then there's not as much in this. I guess there's romantic tension.
Well, you have stated when you've said romantic, you've slashed that with combined with just relationship in general. And I feel like every single, I feel like all these types of tension that you describe, every single time a new dish is introduced, we get all of these things. Like those tensions are all there. Curiosity, fear, mystery, poetic with the way he's describing the dish, cinematic with the way it's being like presented and delivered. And then each table has its own relationship tension going on as they're eating it. So they're playing with all six of those constantly.
It's a good point, because even Margot and Tyler, they have a sort of romantic tension. It's certainly a fractured one.
Yes.
And the husband and wife, pairing and stuff like that. They have relationships.
And the movie star and his
manager.
Yep. So you're right. You're right. They all have that. But then there's curiosity. Curiosity could be as simple as like, they're going to an island. What is this island? Why are they here? Who are these people? That simple stuff like that can be curiosity as well. And then fear and suspense are obvious choices in this one too. So it's loaded. It's like jacked up with all kinds of tension. And as long as a movie has that or a story has that, it'll get us to a late lock-in. If there is one, we can debate that in a second. And it'll get us to the late lock-in. The only other thing I wanted to mention, we brought up a red flag resume in Barbarian, and it was something that we sort of invented because of Barbarian.
I love it, Jamie.
Yeah, Barbarian was the writer said that he was reading a book, and this book had all these red flags about if you meet some guy and you're a woman, like what are all the red flags? And he just wrote them into the script. And I think it was a good instructive thing. Like, what would be the red flags of danger here? Can you subtly put them in the script without letting people tie together exactly what's happening, but just kind of put all these little red flags along the way? And Jimmy, that document you had, I think, listed most of the red flags.
I mean, Tyler has an immense red flag resume. Her date. The chef has his own red flag resume, and so does Elsa, right? Like Elsa is constantly a source of like, this lady is about to blow up on these people, and what's that gonna look like, right? Like she can't be trusted that I'm safe in her presence, You
could almost argue just like the island itself has its own red flag.
Yeah.
And the process, like the fact that the boat leaves. That's a
huge,
red flag, right?
Huge red flag.
Yeah.
And the scene in the smokehouse where they're describing the 152 days of curing, and then she says, "What happens if it's 153?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, it'll just kill you all." And but
But-
it's a good thing we know what we're doing.
the door being shut behind them, it's
Yeah.
what's going on here?
There's red flags galore.
The mother at the table a little bit, like what is?
Mhm.
It's weird.
Mhm.
It's like there's
Yeah.
off-puttingness to it. Yeah,
Who's that like sad old lady in the
sad
corner?
old lady. Yeah, right.
The fact that they're so worried about who Margot is also, there's
Yeah.
such a focus on.
And since we know
Yeah.
she's an outsider, it's double down on that, right? Like we
Mhm.
already know she's an outsider, and they are particularly concerned with that. Yeah.
Yep. So
Jamie,
anyway,
you want to just jump into the log line discussion and just go with it?
Sure,
Let's just go
sure.
with it.
sure. So when we talk about log lines, when I ever break down a log line when I'm analyzing a movie, I'm always searching for the lock-in, and my log lines are more to diagnose the story and less to be marketing, because there's all kinds of ways you can market that cheat the rules and do all kinds of stuff. So the first thing I'm always looking for when I come up with the log line is what's the lock-in of this movie, and that's the thing that's a little up for debate. And when I say the lock-in usually has a hero with a goal, obstacle, and stakes. So if you said like Indiana Jones must find the lost Ark of the Covenant, Nazis and mystery are in the way, and the stakes are if the Nazis get it, they'll win the war, take over the world. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Like, when is the moment? What is that thing that's specific to the story of this movie? And when does it happen is kind of the when isn't as important, but what do you think is the thing when we realize, oh, I know who the hero is, I know what their goal is, I know what their obstacle is, and I know what the stakes. And I have to say, for this movie, I'm not entirely sold that it's an arch plot, one single hero, one goal, I'm not it. To me, this movie is a little loose, which is why it's not as much of a cheeseburger and maybe more of a mini plot, or kind of a sort of, I don't want to say art house movie, but something other than a cheeseburger, because I don't think it's 100%. I know it's this thing. But what do you guys think?
Well, I guess my question you don't think, like when you say that, you don't feel that Margot is the obvious protagonist there?
I would raise my hand as she's the thing to bet money on.
Right.
She is the one I'd pick of the ones, but it's not as clearly her. I think here's the thing with me with this movie is I feel like there's a lot of sitting around and enduring the stuff, the torture,
Mhm.
and there's not as much active, like even the things where they do try to be active a little bit, they generally get shut down pretty quickly, I think, and they sort of endure the meal as opposed to the night, as opposed to like really try to escape it, like,
So
Which is noted by the actual antagonist.
yeah, so that to me, I agree with you, and this isn't really 'cause I'm going to get go ahead.
I
Yeah,
have
that was-
something to say about this.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
this isn't really a critique. I just think this is why, to me, it's more mini plot than arch plot or something.
It
Gotcha.
might not be on this subject, but I think it's actually thematic.
Thematic, yeah,
'Cause-
Bob, I
right.
completely agree with you.
Because I think it's talking about classism, even a little bit about race.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
The fact that Leguizamo is the only one that says we should fight back, and all the other rich white people are kind of like, what do we do?
That's
They're not used
so that is very that's the intentional.
It's
right?
no, it's
Like-
very intentional.
Like because I mean it's funny because I actually think I'm a 40-year-old privileged white guy. This is a theme discussion and we don't have to go heavy into it.
we are all old white dudes.
I'm
We
a
admit that.
42-year-old privileged white guy, so I'm saying that up front. So
Yeah.
apologies if people roll their eyes at this, but they have the villain quote Martin Luther King, and when a privileged white dude quotes Martin Luther King to prove their point, it's always, and rightfully so, met with like, are you serious right now? However, I think in this case, what he was saying was accurate. And all of the people in the room were so privileged themselves that they didn't even have the capacity to listen to what he was saying.
Exactly.
He's literally saying, all of you could have defeated us, but you're so used to being in power that you've never had to fight for anything in your life. So you don't even know how to fight back. That's how fucking pathetic you are, is what he's saying. And that's why, like, John Leguizamo being like one of the person, and there is a black man at the table, and they chose not to explore that.
I feel like the young rich dudes are, it kind of, the fact that they're young kind of negates what we're talking about right now. But Leguizamo's character, he's like, I think Leguizamo himself is 60-ish. He's like 60.
Yeah.
He before he was an actor, he probably experienced a
lot of marginalization.
Right.
He had to fight for everything, right? He was oppressed. He was on the other side of the table.
So
right?
him saying something is perfect, because
it's perfect.
Yeah,
it's perfect. And I think the movie, like, Jamie, like, I think you're right. They don't fight back. They do endure, but I think it's because of who they are. Like, and that is like the point. Like, he chose people who wouldn't fight back, and he's like challenging them, like, to, but he knows, like, they're too privileged. They've never experienced oppression. And Margot, that's why she's able to navigate this situation and survive, because she is a person who hasn't been on that side of it and has been, she comes from like a trailer park, and
her whole
she's
life
had
has been
fight
fighting
for everything for her life. So that's why she's the only one who there in the building, in the situation, who even had the capacity to escape this based on like her makeup. So anyway, but going back to the log line thing, it's funny that Bob and I are both like agreeing with you, Jamie.
We got excited,
and it's not a problem for us. We're like, like they fucking suck, and that's why he was like, you need to be cleansed, like, is all part of the menu. They were specifically chosen ingredients to this experience.
Right.
That's why Margot shouldn't be there, because she's someone who he knows has the capacity to fight back, and he's got to do some curveballs. But anyway, what I wanted to ask you guys was, okay, so what it reminded me of, Jamie, because you're talking about like, what it reminded me of a lot when we're talking about the goal and stuff, the log line is Get Out, in that, like, Chris is brought to this destination. He's with a family of rich white people. He's the outsider in the situation. And it isn't until the other black man at the place that, who's been brainwashed, who's had his brain taken over, says get out, that Chris becomes aware of the primal nature of the danger. And that's not until the midpoint of Get Out. Now, there is a traditional lock-in, like 25%, with the sunken place and him being hypnotized by the mom, and that happens like 25%. But it's interesting because, like, for the first half of Get Out, we have the same question that we have by the end, which is Chris going to make it out of this weekend unscathed, right? And then it changes when we learn, like, is Chris going to make it out of this situation alive? And it felt very similar to Margot. Like, I always felt like, is Margot going to make it through this situation unscathed because she's an outsider?
Right,
and then it changes to a very primal version of that question. So I feel like there is that. I think what makes it a little hard to peg down, like, from like your story DNA, Jamie, that you always talk about, is that we're not given any information about her like we are in a standard cheeseburger. And I'm going to speak to this at the end when I have some deleted scenes that makes for very interesting, I think, choices that they made. It isn't until that bathroom scene when he locks her in and he starts asking her questions that we learn anything about her.
Right.
And that sense of complete blank, complete mystery about who she is, makes her a very, like, unusual hero for a story, right? Like even our, like,
because she wasn't who the audience thought she was,
right?
Yeah,
like we know so little about her. And, in most of these movies we're talking about, within like 10 minutes, everything about these characters that you need to know to, like, root for them to survive this.
It's one of those weird things where if you withhold a lot of information from a main hero, and this can be a problem, right? It could be the thing where you talk about it all the time, where the like they could have sprung a secret that she
A hero
had
with
that
a
nobody
mystery
else.
agenda,
Like,
right? And I
yeah.
thought it was going there, Jamie.
And then we would have been like, they tricked us again, and that's fun.
The audience contract violation.
But you kind of sense that when you watch something, you're like, oh, they're keeping her a mystery, so she's really not. She's this other, there's something going on.
Does
But
that
then
feel
it
like
turned
a
out that
rewrite
wasn't it.
to you almost? Like there's part of me that when I watched the first time, I was like, I could see the history of Margot's character being shown to us first, and then
and
then she gets invited on the date.
All right,
so we get like a sense of who she is as a person.
Mhm.
I'll skip to it,
that.
and we'll go, and because we're talking about it right now, and then we can get back to the lock-in. So in the script, there are 3 deleted Margot conversations in the first half.
Really? Okay.
3. And on page 10 on the boat ride, Tyler and Margot chat a little, and we get a half page of Tyler asking her if she truly loves what she does for a living. And it's only like a half page. They don't tell you what she does, but there's enough to create more intrigue about who she is. And she does something for a living that is worth thinking about. Like she's having to question like the morals and values of what she does for a living in this scene on the page. Then at page 22, when the first meal is being served, we get another page dialogue scene that is just about Margot. Tyler talking about Margot's past. Even though it turns out to be a lie, it's still painting her as a blue collar person in the rich setting, and goes into her feelings about being an outsider in this setting. And it gives you one more page, one more minute where we're creating that deeper things that need fixing, right? And then when the second course is served, we get another 1-page dialogue scene. And this is the shooting draft, so it's really interesting. We get another 1-page dialogue scene where, again, Tyler is talking about Margot's background, and we're getting more details about her as a person. So the script has 3 pages of dialogue that give you more traditional arc plot character background of your hero, that in the final cut, they decided to leave that out and create instead mystery around her. So it makes her feel like less of a traditional heroine
I think it's the right choice. Honestly.
I think it's the right choice too, but it's interesting to see that even in the shooting script, there are 3 scenes that really play more like a traditional arc plot story when it comes to her character. So
also I think the mystery of just that Tyler and her knowing each other, like we don't understand their relationship. With the scenes you're talking about, we would understand that they kind of don't know each other.
Yeah,
we don't know how close they are.
No, and that's
a certain point.
It paints a more clearer picture of their relationship, which I think takes away some of the tension, right? Like, so it's interesting.
The curiosity and the mystery stuff.
And the moment we find out why he
the
brought
reality,
her there.
It all that gets diminished if you add in those 3 dialogue scenes that were in the script. So
but I would also say though, that's the part to me that when I watch the movie in the beginning before it gets to the middle, I'm not exactly sure she's the hero of the story. It could be Tyler, it could be a 2-hander. It seems like those 2 are definitely there, but
you're saying it's missing those cheeseburger ingredients
to clue me in she's more important than these other people. You know what I mean? Like I get that she's the outsider, but I feel like that's just her role in some ways.
Gotcha.
I don't know, Jamie. I kind of don't know if I feel the same though. I mean, I'm not one to argue with Jamie on much, but
I love it.
But I feel
these are the 2 that ended up arguing, not me.
not you. But no, I feel like there's a concentration on her,
and I'm sitting here agreeing with the blood-sucking lawyer.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, like, not just the filmmaking, but like it's her, a Hong Chow, like when she's like, says her name and she gets as that pause and everything. The movie's focusing from her point of view for me. You know what I mean? Like the first half gives me that.
And I mean, there are other things in her. Everybody else is kind of an asshole, but she's kind of us. Like she's
she's the audience surrogate, 100%.
She can roll it. So she has a rooting resume in that regard. There are boxes she ticks.
Yeah, she's got a sense of humor. I almost did
it. She thinks this is bullshit. She thinks that this is bullshit, and that's us, right?
Right, that's us. That's us.
Part of your standard rooting resume, Jamie, is the excluded outsider.
Mm-hmm.
Which she is like.
I could see a movie where Tyler becomes the hero in a different script entirely, but he'd have to have a huge arc. Like he'd have to learn that this is bullshit himself or something.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to put down, man. It's hard to figure out,
that's why it's interesting, right? No, but I guess back to the lock-in, right, where it becomes that standard story DNA. So my question for you was, at 36 minutes is when Margot is really starting to get clued into the sinister nature of everything that's happening. And so she's had all this dread, and now she's starting to take that dread way more serious as things continue to escalate. And since she's more aware of, you know, the everyday dangers of life compared to everybody else, she picks up and that's when she runs from the table and tries to leave, and she can't get out the silver door. And then she goes in the bathroom and she tries to get out the window, and she sees that she can't fit out the window. And then Chef comes in and locks the door behind her. That's 36 minutes. So that's 6 minutes before the head blown up. And that's not that far off from your standard lock-in, right? So my question is that actually the lock-in? Because from that moment on, she's in survival mode, right? So. And that's only 36 minutes. So it's pretty early.
And even the BS log line that I kind of came up with for this. And it was like I just used the temp. I use the, after a catalyst, hero must overcome obstacles to achieve goal or else stakes. And it was like after realizing they are going to be killed as a part of a psychotic chef's deranged dinner service at a remote island restaurant, a woman must find a way to escape her server captives or else die with the other rich assholes she'll be targeted with, or something like that. So after realizing is very vague, so it could certainly be the moment you're saying, that's kind of after realizing she's in danger.
I mean, he walked in a woman's bathroom to
lock the door behind
to
him.
Basically give her a tongue lashing, right? Like, so
and he won't let her leave, and she can't fit out the window, and she knows she can't escape the actual dining hall.
Right.
About a red flag. That's the red flag.
Yeah, that's only 36 minutes in. So I mean, it's 103-minute movie. So yeah. Like,
so I mean that it totally fits with what I'm saying. I think it's when she realizes she's in trouble. Is really when the lock-in is.
It's like the Margot lock-in, and then like the movie lock-in.
The rest of it,
the suicide, and then,
which is only 6 minutes later, 42 minutes.
Right.
From 42 minutes on, it functions, in my opinion, like a monster in the house through and through.
It's a weird thing though, because it's like, if I view it in a and I didn't do this, I'm doing this now. But if I view it in like a save the cat kind of style, and I say, when's the catalyst? What's the thing that triggers her to really say, I need to get out? It could be that. And then the break into two is when he shoots himself, and then it's like, this is on. But there might be a moment before that you could deem the catalyst.
It's debatable.
Yeah, the whole thing's so tense, Yep.
And she personally wants to leave just out of her own taste.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
get me out of this
place. There. Like, she doesn't want to be there. It's what I'm saying is, like, it's not just a horror she wants to leave. It's like, get me out of this situation. We kind of jumped around, guys.
We did.
Speaking of transitions that are smooth. Where are we now?
I think we're on premise pretzels, because we've covered everything before that. Yeah, okay. We circled around the cheeseburger discussion, and maybe we can bring it on to the end when I actually talk about the
That's kind of what I was wondering. Yeah. So much cheeseburger talk. All right, premise pretzels.
Yeah, Jamie, I just like hearing you do this technique, talk about this technique. So I put it on here for that, and also because I think there's a great example. You want to explain premise pretzels?
Yeah, sure thing. So a premise pretzel it's really another form of setup payoff. It's kind of like setup payoff, payoff, or something like that.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So what a premise pretzel is kind of referring to is the fact that you can have more than one style of payoff, and you have to look at the payoffs from all sides. So if you set something up like what's a good example setup? Which one do we always use? I can't remember. Predator, right? Isn't that the one we always use?
There's so many.
There's so many. Yeah, the Predator's good.
Predator is a good one because you have something like the fact that the predator can see can't see. I'm sorry. What it's they can't see the predator, and then later on, Arnold does something where the predator can't see him. It's kind of like twisting your payoffs in two directions or reversing the expectations of something.
Yeah.
So if you take something, always try to do the reverse of it, and then try to do like the inverse of that and stuff like that. And that's what a premise pretzel generally refers to.
Yeah, we talk about how, like, you know, a lot of times we're this show is a monument to the whiteboard and the idea generation process, and like spitting out as many ideas as you can think of, people, places, things, scenarios, and dialogue that deliver on your premise. And a lot of times what I see, and, you know, I've done this myself plenty, when I'm reading my client scripts, amateur scripts, or people who are just starting out and learning the craft, is they'll have a script that's chock full of ideas, but they only use it once. It's filled with ideas. The ideas are good, but they're just never reusing the ideas and playing with them in a variety of ways. And movies that we love, and movies that pro scripts, they find a way to take an idea that they love and do multiple things with it and make it work on multiple levels. And my favorite recent example that we've talked about a year ago was the Ghostbusters Afterlife with Muncher, whereas Muncher is a ghost that eats metal, and they trap him in the ghost trap, and then when they're in prison and all of their gear is locked up and they have to get it out of the cage, instead of doing your standard cliche, having the genius scientist, like, you know, pick the lock of the prison cage that's got all of the Ghostbusters gear, including the trap, they reach in and open the trap with Muncher inside that we saw them trap earlier, and he chews through the metal and they can get all their gear. And that's a great example of taking an idea and then twisting it around and doing the reverse of it to give us something that is like unique and special to the movie that we can never see anywhere else. And like my favorite one in this movie, and there's a bunch of premise pretzels in this movie. The clap is one that we'll talk about later,
yep.
But the calling Dr. Sunshine. This is like my favorite type of when somebody does a premise pretzel, which is like, when it's introduced to us, it's kind of played like it's not a big deal, right? It's like a single joke, right? He's got a tortilla. John Leguizamo's character gets a tortilla, and on it is a movie poster with him.
Should have been Super Mario Brothers.
And she's like, "What is that?" And he's like, she's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that movie." He's like, "Yeah, dumb part, bad script, fun shoot," right? So it's played like a joke, right? And we don't think anything more of it. Then though, they bring it back, and you learn that movie is the reason that Chef chose him to be a part of this experience, and why he believes this is why he deserves to die. He says, "The memory of your face in that film and seeing you again now haunts me. What becomes of an artist when he loses his purpose?" Which is also thematic. You know, it's the whole
to how he feels about
himself and why he's doing this. And so it works on a deeper level. And then they bring it back a third time when they give as part of the experience, they give all the guests a glimmer of false hope that they're going to escape by having the movie's John Leguizamo's character think that this Coast Guard guy is such a fan of his, that he loves this movie, that that the chef brought him there to kill him as a result of, and it's just great. It's just great. And so this is, if you're looking for ways to understand how to take an idea and do something more with it multiple times in a movie, I think the Calling Dr. Sunshine is a great example of how to do that. So it stuck out to me. That was like the thing I was most excited to talk about, is this Calling Dr. Sunshine.
Well, it's like you said, it's not a throwaway thing. They use it so much later.
There's nothing throwaway. That's the point. Yeah. And if you can try to come up with, like you said, Jamie, you've said many times, like everything's set up payoff, right? If you can try to find a way where all the ideas you're putting on there, everything on the scene is going to come back in some little way, that's when you know you have a good idea, right? That's when you know when you've got like 5 things on the page, which one am I going to choose to put in my script? If there's one that you can make it do 4 other things, that's the one you want to do. So anyway.
And this tracks for every table.
Yes.
There's something at every table that comes back.
Comes
and
back.
Started out as sort of a little joke or a conversation.
Right. And often, like you said, like it's played like a one-off joke. And then we realize, and then it comes back in a more serious way, in a more thematic way. Yeah.
Like the stock guys talking about their boss and everything. And then eventually we see.
Oh my God. They play with that. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Totally. Right.
Yeah.
They play a lot. Did we talk about cheeseburgers first 5-course meals? Did you guys want to go back to that?
Do you want to go, Jamie? Go for it.
I feel like
yeah. Yeah. I mean, and we often talk. We kind of hinted at it earlier, but cheeseburgers tend to be like our general word for kind of movies for everybody, right? Anybody can kind of watch
Marvel
movies. Everybody likes a cheeseburger.
The bread and butter of this show, to use another food.
Yeah,
I'm really hungry, guys.
Where there are some movies that either you have to be in the right mood for, or you have to be the right audience for, and they're your 5-course meal kind of things. You're
not going to relax with Hereditary, right?
And my question to this one, not that it really matters too much, is this a 5-course meal or is this a cheeseburger? And and I, is this a movie for everyone, or is this a cheeseburger?
Which is what the movie itself is literally thematically asking.
Yeah, asking. Yeah. It's funny because first half through, I was like, this is a 5-course meal, right? But then when it all came together, what it actually was, I feel like it's like Barbarian, a cheeseburger that's just all the parts are put together a little differently. But when
deconstructed cheeseburger,
yeah. But when you bite into it, it still tastes like a Big Mac.
It's a fancy cheeseburger,
and I think like it's a fancy cheeseburger because
gourmet cheeseburger.
Because I think the one thing that's setting it apart more than anything else is that weird introduction to Margot's character in the first half, which is we are given so little we're kept so in the dark about who she is, what her background is, all that. And that's really like, imagine Back to the Future if we didn't know anything about Marty when he gets stuck in 1955. Like, what is that movie? Here's some guy, I don't even know who he is or
why
what
he's
right. capable of, what his skills are, what is he, why, but he's here in the past, so I think like that part of it is very not a cheeseburger, but everything else is like a cheeseburger. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's more like of the Barbarian, Jamie, where you in Barbarian, you talked about how like they know that we love cheeseburgers and they're playing with that in a way to be like, I'm going to surprise you by giving you a cheeseburger all along. And they actually do in this movie.
Yeah, they actually give you a cheeseburger.
Yeah, like I'll give you some lines. If you want, can I read some of the lines?
Jamie,
go ahead, Bob.
At the beginning, you sort of posited this, right? Like, are you saying that you feel it's a cheeseburger? I just wanted to clarify that for the audience.
I feel like earlier you were saying no.
Or are you saying no? Yeah.
No, it's a strange one because I actually think in some ways it is, because mini plot, like it feels like it could be mini plot at times to me, because it feels like it doesn't have a ton of cause effect to it.
Right.
It's just like episodic. It's kind of like this is kind of, it's basically we go through all the courses of the meal and nothing really gets interrupted or changed. We're just kind of enduring the courses of the meal. There's some attempts of escape, but not a ton, because like she's kind of trapped and there's no strength in numbers because of the things you said. It's like nobody's rising up to fight them.
Right.
So that a cheeseburger typically probably would have more of that. There'd probably be like, let's grab the knives and go after them, or something.
I think a cheeseburger would have a logical approach to how they could get out of the situation. Like, we have to kill the chef, and once we cut the head off the snake, and then we can, you know what I mean? Somebody would say something like that, but that didn't happen.
But it does.
That's true.
It does tricks that ticket in the favor of the cheeseburger. It's not ambiguous. It's pretty clear what, there's a resolute ending. The hero gets away. Not that the hero has to get away in a cheeseburger, but it has a kind of cathartic ending in a weird sort of way. And even though it is episodic, it has kind of and you mentioned this, an unconventional ticking clock, which we could talk about in a second, which the menu courses kind of pull us through. So it doesn't feel like, where is this going? Why?
When the menu's over.
Because we know when the menu's over. And it keeps, and each one keeps increasing the tension. It keeps ratcheting it up and ratcheting it up. And that's really what we want from a movie, is a kind of tension trajectory in some ways that makes us feel like we're getting toward the end. So I think it kind of pulls off all the cheeseburgery things. I know I watched this with my wife, and she was totally engaged by it. And she's not the type of person that would go in for some of the weirder kind of surreal, strange.
And to your point, Jamie, I watched this with Jill, who absolutely hates it. I feel so bad for, like, I've taken, because of what I do, we've been to so many film festivals together, and she sat through so many really bad experimental anti-plot movies that drive her insane. So she hates anti-plot. She does not want the 5-course meal. She wants the cheeseburger,
and
right?
This probably didn't annoy her at all.
She loved this movie more than I did. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Like it's not. I wouldn't say this movie's weird. Like, just no, like, I'm saying, if like my mom asked me should I watch with my aunt, they'd be like, is that a weird movie? I'd be like, no, you'll get it. It's comprehend. You know what I mean? It's not like you're gonna watch like a David Lynch movie or something like that.
Yeah, we talked about Bob. You said this on the Barbarian episode. You said like, people are like, it's wild, man, it's wild, and you're like, it's really not wild unless you're like a cheeseburger audience member, right?
If you only watch Marvel movies, Barbarian is wild. If you only watch Marvel movies, the menu
is wild, right?
But it's not really that wild. Like, it's kind of what we're getting at. Like,
the way it plays with genre and tone is not that.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Weird.
We're not saying that's a negative here.
No, I'm saying I'm trying to say in support of it being a cheeseburger all along.
The ticking clock thing is a great discussion too, because like you said, Jamie, like, it has a very I would say, like, a relatable motion for it. It's not like all of a sudden we're watching, like, scenes of horses running and then like somebody, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like we're watching some like experimental thing.
So let's just go ahead and go in, and then we can always circle back if the cheeseburger conversation keeps going. But So one thing, when I'm reading scripts, often I'll have screenplays that do great job with characters with filmable goals, as we talk about a lot on the script, and measurable stakes feared that the character will experience if they fail to achieve the goal, measurable rewards sought, where the character is seeking some reward if they achieve the goal that we can feel. But often what is missing is a deadline to achieve that goal, right? And to your point, to both of you guys' points, there is a deadline from the start of this movie, which is the end of the meal. And it's really unconventional in that, like, the menu itself is the hourglass, right? I call them hourglasses, where we get either a vocalized update of how much time is left before the deadline is up, or we get a visibly measurable update of how much sand is left in that hourglass, right? And the menu, just the construction of this story, just organically creates this never-ending hourglass emptying, which is, they introduce the course, and here we go. We're getting one step closer to that being delivered. They put the meal on the table. There's more urgency. They eat it. We're getting one step closer to the second course, which what the fuck is the second course going to bring? And that just repeats itself. So there's like I even tracked it, but I'm not going to break it down. But like every 3 minutes, there's some sort of meal-related status update where we're getting one step closer to them finishing the course, and then here comes the next course that creates this momentum and urgency to, like, you're just since everything keeps escalating and every course gets weirder, it makes you feel like, what the fuck is coming next? That's why all three of us said when they put that tarp down, it's like, oh, they're most likely going to disembowel this guy here and like feed this guy's guts to everybody at the table, because that's the tension they've been building. They've been creating an expectation for that using just the menu itself to deliver that experience. So I think it's a really good example of how you don't necessarily need like, a clock, that's ticking down to make it feel like time is of the essence. And oh my God, like here comes the next one. Because when they get to the end of that menu, shit is gonna be bad. So you're just like, it creates this nonstop tension, like you said, Jamie. So I think it's a really good example of how to use a ticking clock that's not an actual clock, basically.
Yeah, and we're told at the beginning. Aren't we told like Hung Chau says how long the menu actually
4
is?
hours.
4 hours.
Yeah. It's gonna take 4 hours, and there's 7 courses.
Like, even though it's an unconventional ticking clock,
we do get a deadline. They tell you the length of time.
Yeah,
but there isn't like 4 hours. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like there isn't like a thing on the corner of the screen that's like 3 hours down. Right. Instead, we're on course number 2 out of 7. That's your clock update. That's your hourglass. That shows you how much sand is left in the hourglass before all shit goes down. Yeah.
I think also on this, like, because of the premise and what you're talking about, the whole movie is us dreading dessert.
Yes, right? Exactly.
And then the fact that the ending is about a very familiar dessert.
Yeah,
kind of.
It's so great. Yeah, it's so great.
Okay, not so secret weapons.
Yeah. So, Jamie, I just love hearing you talk about all the techniques. Jamie, do you want to introduce this? Sure. And then
I'll let you do the premise specific tactics.
Okay, they're intertwined. Yeah.
Yeah. So, not so secret weapon is this classic thing you always see, sometimes related to the character arc, which I'll give you an example of the character arc one too. But usually, whatever brings about the big win in the movie at the end is somehow set up earlier in the movie, and sometimes a not so secret way, and sometimes a secret way. Sometimes it is kind of secret, but examples that always come to mind are crossing the streams in Ghostbusters, or the loader in Aliens, when Ripley shows how tough she is using a loader and how she has skills. And then both of those things come back to play in the end. A character arc version of this might be something like use the Force, Luke, at the end. So that's the not so secret weapon. And then premise specific.
Yeah. So to that note, the best versions of these, and we've gone through so many of these at this point, try to make it something that we can only see, in this movie, right? Like for an example, in Get Out, Chris uses the cotton in the chair to plug his ears and keep himself from being brainwashed. That is so that represents the movie in multiple ways. That is a tactic that is only special in this movie, right? And what it's about and his oppression. Like crossing the streams in the Ghostbusters, that's like the proton packs only exist in the Ghostbusters story world. So they created a not so secret weapon that we could only see when we're putting Ghostbusters like on the TV. So, and Dutch's, you mentioned it earlier, Jamie, Arnold's mud camouflage in the Predator, that is so specific to the monster that he's facing and the situation that he's in the jungle. So it's like it's a secret weapon, not so secret weapon, and a premise specific tactic that we can only get in this movie. So that's the idea, right? In Elf, I just added this to the list of these. In Elf, it's Buddy saying the best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear, right? How do they save Christmas? By getting the entire New York to sing a Christmas carol. That is so unique to the movie, right? And I the way I try to get my clients to do this, because most scripts I read don't have this. And the way I try to get my clients to find the answer to what this is I call it the MacGyver exercise, which is Every character is MacGyver in their own MacGyver episode. And you have to ask yourself, how is my character going to MacGyver themselves out of this unique, specific situation using what's special to this movie, right? And this is like a perfect, the menus, Margot's MacGyver move is so specific, right? She goes into that guy's room, the chef's room, and she sees that, oh, the last time he was happy was when he was just a lowly line cook on at a burger joint, right? He's flipping a burger. So that plants the seeds. That is a not so secret weapon that we literally learn about the scene before she uses it, but that's okay. And Jamie, once again, that's an unconventional, because that setup happens like a minute before, whereas all these other ones we talk about, those seeds were planted an hour ago, right? But she does three things all at once, which is she takes the chef's clap and uses it against him. She takes the returning the food, which no one would dare do, and uses it against him. And then his genuine love of cooking, right? He's told him how he's lost his joy for cooking. He hasn't wanted to cook for anyone in years, and here she is, recognizing that the last time he had a smile on his face that she knows of is when he's cooking a cheeseburger. So
right.
The cheeseburger request is like a great example of a premise specific tactic and a not so secret weapon. So it's just a great example if you're trying to understand what that is. And Jamie, the funny part is, I think since we've recognized this, that it's sort of a standard must-have ingredient to a cheeseburger movie. You can't have a cheeseburger movie without a not so secret weapon. So again, kind of in the favor of this is a cheeseburger, it has a not so secret. It has its own crossing the streams, right?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great.
I'm jazzed about this movie. I love this movie.
I guess we didn't expect Jimmy to love it this much. I mean,
I fucking love this movie.
Yeah. Well,
reverse lock. They call this.
Jimmy's reverse lock, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So Margot, we're talking about her. Interesting conversation. Does she arc? And what kind of arc does she?
So
have?
Originally, Jamie, what were you saying that you were going into, like, first of all, you were having your issues with whether she was the hero, but then when it came to like the arc conversation, where were your feelings?
Yeah, Margot is an interesting character in that I don't really think she has an arc per se. Like, I think she kind of starts out the same person she ends up with, maybe with a slightly differing experience. Do you guys kind of feel the same way? Like she's kind of would do the same things. Her character at the beginning would have done the same thing as the character at the end.
Agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
she is not a different person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Jamie, you talk about like the before and after snapshot.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've sort of evolved that into old way, new way, right? So we see the character do something the old way that shows like how they need to grow and change. And then we see the character do something, the same thing, the new way that shows they've grown and changed, right? We don't, we don't get an old way. We don't even know enough about her to even have any perception of a before snapshot.
We know she's just like a sex worker and she's not rich.
Right.
That's about
pretty much it.
Right.
And I remember, Bob, you've talked about this is I don't remember what episodes you've mentioned, but I'm getting this from past things from you where you've saying a lot of times people confuse character arc with character awareness, where a character is going into a situation and what changes is their awareness that they gain about whatever information they need to know to get out of the conflict, right? And I think this is an example of that. Like, she is not fully aware of the situation, and the only thing that changes is like her awareness.
But she's the same person with new knowledge. So
which is not an arc.
That's not an arc. No, that's
right.
Not. Just because you know that like secret islands with culinary delights exist doesn't mean you're a new person.
And that there's a chef, Jim Jones chef with a cult of sous chefs and
she responds to all of it as she would always respond to all of it, as Jamie already pointed out. I think that I find that one of the things that people like about the show, and like, I mean, I know we're getting it from books, but like, would the character do the same thing at the end that they would do at the beginning? I hear that from people all the time. Like, it's like a light bulb over their head. Like, that's great.
Well, yeah,
that's
I mean,
great.
it's true, and I feel like her before snapshot, if we were gonna get one, would be the same. Like, she goes home from this and she's like, that was fucking crazy, man, but like her life is the same, like
I mean, I can see how somebody would say she has an arc, because like, it's kind of that epiphany moment of her thinking about the cheeseburger. It seems like something in her is changing, but really it's just her getting an idea.
I almost feel like her, so like her job, they even sort of tease it when she's talking about how she knows the old man at the table, right? And what she did for him. Her job is to like connect with other humans and figure out what they need, right? And that's like what she does. That's like her unique skill set with her as being a sex worker. And that's really what she does. And she probably has done that before the movie started to get herself out of other conflicts, right? So it doesn't really feel like she's doing something that she's never done before. Right.
And the movie also doesn't, I love the fact that the movie doesn't have any like interplay about any turmoil about what she does for a living.
No, fantastic.
Like,
right.
It doesn't even,
Places
that's
zero.
not even a thing. Zero emphasis on that.
In fact, she kind of is placed in a, it's almost like more respectable what she's doing.
No, totally. The movie just respects people that aren't the rich.
Yeah, the takers.
Yeah, the takers.
Right. Yeah. So
we're saying it is a flat arc, but also an arc of awesome, which is slightly the same thing.
Yeah, Jamie,
I get what you're saying, Jamie.
To that.
Yeah, we were talking before this. There's this thing called the arc of awesome that a friend of mine, Keith Calder, he's a producer, he actually kind of coined. And the arc of awesome is sort of like a character that already has it figured out. He's already in the good place, so to speak, in his heart. And the world keeps trying to pull them down. So they kind of change the world based on their own goodness, like Superman or Captain America or something.
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump.
This is one of the first things Jamie ever explained to me about screenwriting. It's like one of the first things we ever talked about, Jamie. Superman and the arc of awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the arc of awesome. Then there's this other term called a flat arc. But if you Google it, like I just Googled it just to see what it said, and it's kind of the same thing, but maybe not with the change of the world element.
Right. That's what I was taught. I was curious.
So I think it is kind of the same thing, but the arc of awesome is has the change of world. The flat arc might have the change of world. It's more generic, like almost like the arc of awesome inherits from the flat arc. So a flat arc this is the definition I Googled from selfpublishingschool.com or whatever that is. A flat arc is used for a protagonist that knows the truth about himself from the start. There's no arc defined for better or worse. Instead, this character can change the world around them. So
I mean, and she has enough influence, and granted, it's manipulation, it's a tactic, but she has enough influence to change the chef from refusing to let her go to letting her go. Right. So that is measurable.
Yeah. And I think that is what this character is. They have the truth already. They have the truth that if the other people had it, they might be able to save themselves.
Yes.
But those characters don't have it. So
if they had it, they wouldn't even be on the island.
Yeah.
Right. There is a third type of arc, which is the tragic flat arc.
Yep.
I'll call it the tragic flat arc. I don't know if that has a name. But that's the person that should arc, but doesn't. So they learn the lesson.
That's where, oh, really?
Would this be like Leaving Las Vegas or something like that? Where like Nick Cage just drinks himself to death and there's no...
And then there's a tragedy, something bad happens. So if you could imagine like, in some ways, all the other characters are that way in this, in some ways.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. That's a great point. So they all do have that.
I don't know that they really have a lesson to learn, but they don't learn any lessons and they end up dying. And we're kind of okay with that because they didn't lose the lesson. But imagine if like Tyler went from being like himself to being like Margot. and then he died, it would feel a little tragic, unless he did a sacrifice or something like that in order to, it would feel a little bit of a downer that, oh, this guy really didn't, he did learn the lesson, he should have lived or something like that. But sometimes characters, should be learning something, they should arc, they don't, and then they die, and that's a tragic ending.
Do you find in the movie, in the last moments when everyone sort of there's like that, like, midsummer moment where everyone sort of accepts what's happening, like that, does that play with what you're saying at all, Jamie?
I think so, Jamie. I mean?
Yeah,
I think when you just pointed that out, you made me have a nice little aha, like with that thematically. They are learning the lesson that the chef's trying to say to them, and they don't, but it's too late for them.
It's too late.
Yeah, they have like 30 seconds to live, and when they learn it. Right.
Yeah.
That acceptance speaks to that. Yeah.
Well, deleted scenes. You wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, so
Jimmy,
I read the
right?
script. I breezed through the script before the episode, just because full disclosure, when we're doing these episodes, it can save me a lot of time if I can search a PDF for one of these topics, and I can jump to the page, and if it matches the movie, it's really easy to study scripts if you have the PDFs of them. So anyway, let's back up just one thing, because I wanted to say what was in the script about Margot's, what the script was trying to do with Margot in her final moments.
Oh, right.
there.
Yeah. Tell us.
This is it's relevant to the script. So on page 107 in the script, the scene is scripted exactly the same as we just talked about. Like she takes her to-go bag, and she looks back. And here's what the script says. Now, remember, I just mentioned, like, she has a relationship with that old guy at the table. Like, he hired her, right? But it's explored so little, but this is relevant to that. So it says, Margot takes a last look at Chef and Richard, that's the old guy's name, and Anne, and walks out of the restaurant. We sense that she is also walking away from the life she had, away from the world of men she is now finally done with. Yeah. I don't think that's in the movie.
That seems like it must have been an old draft or something.
No, this is the shooting draft.
This is the shooting draft?
And everything that I said, those conversations that they cut with Tyler and Margot, none of that explored this whatsoever. So it's one of those things, sometimes people put something on the page and they haven't done enough to earn that. And I think this is the case. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is one of those things, like if you were being real stingy about writing, like it's an unfilmable kind of thing. Like
she's just looking, right?
Right. Because the question would be, how does the director,
how do you convey that?
Yeah, how does the director shoot that? So it's a cheat in some ways. By the way, it's an okay cheat. We do this all the time because people read fast and stuff like that. So as long as you don't overdo it, and as long as you earn it, like that's the difference. Like if this script did earn that arc and you put that there, it would kind of be hinting at the performance and how to shoot it. Like if she looks out like with tears in her eyes or something, or stern or whatever, it kind of hints at that without saying with tears in her eyes, which could be ambiguous and misinterpreted. So it's okay to do these cheats, like even though it is technically a cheat. So when
I always err on the side of clarity, like if it's filmable and it's clear.
I'm saying it's funny, when I came up screenwriting, I came up with people that were militant against this kind of thing, right? But then as the many years passed, I found, to the point where, this is always the joke I kind of say, this is true, by the way. I used to get notes all the time, like, we don't know how she's feeling this way, why she's feeling this way. And my fix, I love those notes, because I would just go in and say, she looks out, she feels sad. And I just write, she feels sad. Now I'd cover the notes, like or something like that. Or we can't tell we can't tell if she's scared or not. I'd write, she's scared. I just put it in the script. And they would be fine the next draft. I just put she's scared. And it would work. It works every time.
No, but it was interesting that this was in there for all the clarity that is there on the page.
Right.
There's this huge passage at the end of her journey that's talking about something that I feel like you said, I think, Bob, the way you put it, it probably was given more emphasis in older drafts. And as they've peeled away the pieces of the onion, like some of that onion still remains, the old version. That happens sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, like I don't feel like maybe there was another version of this script where that was really at the forefront of Margot's journey and her inner conflict.
Note that her both looking at Tyler being dead and when she leaves the room, I kind of love how she's sort of emotionless about those people dying.
Yes.
She does not care about.
But I also think that moment, which isn't in the script, by the way, where Anne, Angela from
Who's the
boss, is giving her the waving at her to go.
Yeah,
that kind of final little permission, like you don't belong here, in a positive way, I think is really important, and it's like a nice little like moment that like absolves her of needing to like try to save the people.
Like you can't save us.
You can't save us. Yeah. Take your one little, the one good thing that came out of this. This one person survives this. Yeah. But so back to
that brings us to other deleted scenes.
There
right?
are other deleted scenes, so it's good. It's relevant. Okay. The John Leguizamo character had a peanut allergy. They actually played up all of the characters' dietary restrictions more in the script throughout. And that's just something like in the scenes, like where there's like a piece of dialogue here and there that was meant to create tension that they just cut out. They probably even filmed it, right?
There was that gluten-free comment.
The gluten-free guy, the old man at the table, they didn't play with it. He's allergic to shellfish in the script. And then John Leguizamo's character is allergic to peanuts. So they took that and played with it in multiple ways through every single table had somebody like this, which is like very premise specific, right? But anyway, he had a peanut allergy. And then the scene where Margot is fighting with Elsa with the knife is intercut with after the chef talks about why he needs to be punished. His manager is forced, with all the chefs around her, to feed John Leguizamo his own special final course that's got peanuts in it. And it's intercut in the script between Margot and Elsa fighting in the kitchen to John Leguizamo being force-fed a peanut allergy meal and fighting and coughing and choking.
Like completely different, right? Yeah.
So different. Yeah,
that's like the there's no DeLorean in the script.
That's a very different. That's a very, and they have the thing on the course. The funny description of the meal comes up and it says course number 8 or going nuts, and so it's like really like particularly absurd, right? So that's an interesting change that's in the shooting script. And I only know it's the shooting script because they have all the color labels of production draft. There's like there's blue pages and pink pages and all that, which is indicative of it being like the closest possible one. In the final course, this is another one. Right before the s'mores, like right after the peanut thing, Lillian, the food critic, is waterboarded with a bucket of the emulsion that she criticized. You know how they kept giving
so that had like a payoff.
It had a payoff with the bucket at the table and the sous chefs dunking her in and out of the emulsion.
Man.
So that's another thing that they cut from the finale.
Right.
And then this is like one of my favorite changes. So when Margot goes into the chef's room, there's 2 changes. They swapped the ambiguity, the mystery, which is when Margot goes into the chef's room in the script, we are not told what she's looking at when she looks at the picture of the burger, him flipping the burger. It says we don't get to see what she's looking at, but it's important. And then in the reverse, when she turns around and the CB radio is there, we get to hear the whole conversation she has with the Coast Guard, and we know definitively that the Coast Guard is on their way. That she thinks the Coast Guard is on their way to rescue her. So they flipped that mystery, like, because in the real scene we get to see the burger, but we don't get to hear the conversation on CB radio.
Somebody, yeah.
So I think it's like really instructive, right? Like, imagine that burger choice doesn't hit as hard if we don't see that picture, right? Even in the shooting draft, they didn't want to show the picture. So it's really interesting. And who knows, maybe it was a late insert, right? Because it is just an insert shot. So maybe they did a test and they were like, you know what? This is going to hit harder if we see the burger. And maybe they did like a late insert shot of it. Who knows? But yeah, in the script, she doesn't look, we don't see what that picture is.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Interesting, right? It isn't until the end after she leaves. After she leaves and she's escaped, when there's like the fire, there's like a slow close up onto the picture and revealing that it's
almost like The Shining or something, right?
Yeah.
At the end of The Shining.
After she made that choice, they're telling us how she got that idea after. It really interesting, right? And then this is the one to what you were just saying, Jamie, about and how we were kind of coming to a conclusion that maybe all the other characters and the guests have a tragic arc, like they learn the lesson and they accept it, but nothing changed. Like, it's too late. In the script, right before the chef torches them, on the page, the guests are described as being genuinely happy to pay their bills, and they stand and applaud the chef. And they are described as expressing genuine appreciation for the experience he gave them. Then he burns them alive. And that is not how it plays at all. Like, that's fucking weird.
The s'mores aren't mentioned at all?
No, the s'mores, all the s'mores happens, but as they're being doused in shit, when they pay the bill, they're pumped about it. And when they stand, they are applauding that he taught them the lesson, and they're applauding the experience that he gave them. They're like grateful for basically about to be being burned alive. So it's like beyond acceptance. They're showing gratitude for the meal, which is very different.
Yeah, that's
weird,
so
right?
Different. Yeah, that's so weird. I mean, there's like one moment of some weird gratitude thing, enlightenment, but not that.
Yeah, weird, right? I always like to
weird.
see these changes and think about the movie that could have been, right? And how that would change the end. I feel like it wouldn't be as scary or impactful if they were like, it would be too absurd. I think it crosses the absurdity line.
They might have shot some of that
they might have shot it. Yeah. That's what we always say, right? That's why we say the final edit of the movie. The
final edit of the movie.
Script.
Well, that's also what the readers have access to and everything.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I forgot, and this is way late to bring this up, but one thing that's is this movie originally had Alexander Payne and Emma Stone attached to it.
Really? And Daniel Radcliffe.
Radcliffe? I didn't even know Radcliffe was
Daniel Radcliffe was going to be Tyler.
Oh, wow.
Right. And Ralph Fiennes was in from the beginning. And he apparently Alexander Payne and Emma Stone went out together, but and everybody thought Fiennes would go too, but then when they brought the new director in, he stayed.
Gotcha.
But for a while it was I think usually when something like that happens, it can almost feel like the end of a project. Like that is the end.
Yeah.
And once you lose your actors, it's the end. So
I'm really glad it worked out.
Yeah.
Yep. And I guess it was produced by Adam McKay, who also produces the Succession, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
I think he does.
Also another comedy voice. So,
yeah.
And he's made something like absurd as tone, like The Big Short.
Right. Yeah. I think that's everything, guys.
Yeah.
I think that's all we have. Did you guys want to plug anything? Tell people about anything?
We made it to the dessert.
Yeah, we made it to the menu. We made it to the cheeseburger at the end. We can get out.
You know what I want to say? I want to ask, what did we learn? We haven't done that in like 10, 15 episodes. What did we learn?
My problem, the reason I don't like What Do We Learn is the whole thing is what I learned.
Yeah, that was always my problem with it.
All right, What did we learn? That neither Bob nor Jamie wants to do this portion of the show again.
That's why I stopped asking. I stopped asking you.
I think I was the person that brought up what we learned, and then I was always like, "What am I going to do? Just go back and highlight my favorite thing?" Or
Yeah.
what I usually tried to do was try to do what I learned in this podcast as opposed to from the movie. Like,
yeah.
Like, what was the thing I learned from this podcast? Like from you guys. But I can't think of what that is. Not that I didn't learn anything today, but I can't narrow in on that one nugget of beautiful knowledge that you gave me today.
I mean, I can always say I learned about deleted stuff from Jimmy. You're the research guy, Jimmy.
Sure.
You're always digging
research
in.
guy.
So, yeah, I always learn more about movies from you. So, and this is no exception. So,
I try to like do it justice if we can. And no, I learned about the flat arc thing. I hadn't really thought of flat arc as like sort of being a companion to Arc of Awesome. So that was educational to me.
Is a good episode for that of Back to the Future with Marty? I think we have that discussion, right?
Yeah, we do, because it's really George is the one who has the
I just remember that being a big arc discussion.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you have that flat arc of Awesome, somebody else changes. And I think in this one, somebody else should change, but they don't, and then they die.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it, but not really.
Yeah.
But there's lessons for someone else. When you have somebody with a flat arc, there are lessons, but they're for other characters, not
for other characters, not for the character. Yep, that's a good way to put it, Jamie. But
good.
No.
Do you guys, in that case, do you guys have anything to plug?
Yeah. I don't think. It's funny, I have something to plug for tomorrow, but this won't be out by tomorrow. So I'm not going to plug
it. Let's see. Nope, nothing to plug.
Well, I just wanted to say thanks to everyone that's supporting, this show and me on Patreon. I really appreciate it. And if you want to help us out, you can do that. You can leave us a thing on iTunes, a review, or you can just share the show. Believe it or not, like, that is huge, and I don't think we ask enough for that. We don't really ask for that, but like, just sharing the show is really appreciated, especially if you're like in like a screenwriters group or something like that we are.
It really does help. Yep.
Yeah. So if you're on Reddit and you know how to use Reddit and you want to share the show and it's not us sharing it, that would be a huge help.
Yeah, because when we share it, people are like, fuck you for self-promoting.
Right. So,
500 downvotes within 30 minutes.
Right. So any of our listeners are Reddit Jedi Masters, please do it up. Thank you. We appreciate it. But
I wish I knew the guy in England who is on a British screenwriting group who shares us. I don't know his name because he's got the Reddit phone name. So
right.
There's somebody out there who is sharing us in a screenwriting group, and it's helping.
Well, thank you to that guy. Well, whatever his name may be.
His name is Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
Huge fan.
He loves when we talk about transitions.
We haven't done Edgar Wright movie yet, have we?
No, we need to do one. Yes.
We have to.
Which one would we do?
My God, I don't even know.
I'd leave it up to Jamie. Whatever
Jamie
wants to do.
Jamie's most excited about. Let's do it.
Hot Fuzz is my favorite, but we don't have to do that.
I know the one I wouldn't do. The most recent one, I would not do.
The Soho.
Last Night in Soho.
Yeah. I'm not.
Well, if we did one, I think we could do like him and Simon Pegg scripts.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I would figure we'd do.
It would be. I think Shaun of the Dead would be the one.
That seems the obvious one to do.
Just seems right.
And really instructive. There's a lot. Yeah. And there's a lot out there about their process.
I'd do the unmade Ant-Man film.
Oh.
That's what we could do.
It would just be the Ant-Man we got with more crash zooms and no quantum realm, right? That's kind of what I understood.
Better transitions.
Jamie took it. Yeah.
Yep. With that, I think we're done. I'm gonna go eat a big cheeseburger today. I think just a celebration. And thanks for listening. I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Hey, this is Bob Rose, and thank you for listening to Writers Blockbusters. If you'd like to financially support the show, please consider joining my Patreon. I've been producing the podcast for several years completely out of pocket, and I'd like to keep producing it ad-free and no longer at a loss. If you'd like to help, head on over to patreon.com/Bob Rose Sucks. That's right, Bob Rose Sucks. And if you want the one and only Jimmy George to help polish up that writing project you're kind of struggling with, head on over to scriptbutcher.com. As a listener, you already know he's the best there is, scriptbutcher.com. You can also support the show by simply sharing it or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate both. Thank you for listening, and see you next episode.